we're getting ready for the wounded worshiper. Those of you that have already heard unpacked baggage, you've already heard ruptured relationship, you've already heard brokenness. So all of this, if you heard that, all of this connects. All of this connects and it ties in with the wounded worshiper. Okay, maybe you might be that woman that has gone through some tough times in life. You've dealt some bad hands. You've been through some hard things. You have been in relationships that have been broken, some relationships that have been wounded, some relationships that have been ruptured, and you just don't know what to do. So you find yourself, as I said, continuing to repeat the cycle over and over again. And sometimes we get in these relationships and they're so toxic to us, but because we're engulfed in it, maybe we're connected spiritually, maybe we're connected physically, maybe mentally and emotionally, whatever the ties may be, it is all still soul ties. So when we find ourselves in these soul-tied relationships that are tied, got our spirits bound and connected, and we're overwhelmed with emotions, and we're going up and down like a roller coaster, and we know it's like we're in love with it, but we know it's not the good love. It's not the love that we're supposed to have, the feelings that we're having. We really shouldn't be feeling, but they're there. They're there. Some of us are in these relationships and we're married, because when I talk about the wounded worshiper, many cases, these are the women that have been married, or in the marriage, or maybe divorced like myself, a wounded worshiper. What is a wounded worshiper, Mary J? I'm not quite sure I know what you're talking about. I don't know what you mean about. Are we talking about church? No, we're not talking about church. We're talking about the relationship that we get entangled in, that we find ourselves bound by man, connected in such a way that everything that we do, we give it all to him. We give it all to him, whatever the situation may be. And a lot of times, because we're so connected, we're so bound, we begin to worship these relationships. Are you kidding me? I am not. I am not. Many times we do it without even knowing. We begin to worship the relationships that we're in. We're so busy trying to make sure that everything that person needs in our life, whether it's our man, whether it's our children, whether it's our spouses, or whomever it is, our parents, whatever it is, we're so busy trying to make sure that we give them all that they want. And we give them all that they desire. We end up losing ourselves in someone else's life. We end up losing who we are, trying to cater and please so many other people. You're a wounded worshiper. Because let me tell you, something that you worship is something that you idolize it. You might say, you know what? No, I don't worship anything. I haven't worshiped anything. And I'm not. Let me tell you how crafty it is. And sometimes we get so bound and connected and we don't even know that we're there. We don't even know that we're dealing with it the way that we're dealing with it, because we understand submission, ladies, especially when you're married, especially when you've been church, especially when you've read the word. We understand submission. So we get entangled in submission, and there's a thin line between submission and slavery. There's a thin line between submission and slavery. And I know I'm going to walk heavy and deep. I know for some people are going to be shaken. Some may even leave. You can say goodbye right now, but I've been there, so I can talk about it. I know what I'm talking about. But listen, there's sometimes that we're in these relationships and we're so smothered in them that we feel that we have to, just say everything everywhere we're going, everything we're doing. Get to a point where you got to let them know where you're going, what time you're going to be back, when you're going, who you're going with, who's going to be there, all of that stuff. And it's not like it's a whole list of things that we have to go through. It's just so settled. It's just the little settled things that we find ourselves pouring out everything. Not wanting our friends to let our husband know, or let our wives know, whoever it is, whatever relationship, to let them know that we're there, that we're with you. Not wanting them to know that we called today. I had some relationships where I found out that I even had girlfriends that had to block. They had to be blocked. I'm like, what are you talking about? You had to block? Why? Why did you? Oh, because he wouldn't want her to know that I'm with her, or he wouldn't want her to know that I just can't let him know that I was over there by her, or we went to this place or that space. And that's a wounded worshiper. You're giving so much into it, so much of yourself into it, that you're really finding yourself wounded. You're broken. And you're still trying to please. You're trying to appease people. You're trying to make sure you get in where you fit in. Not wanting your significant other to know who your friend is, who you're entangled with. Why not? What is that about? Having to carve out a time and a space where you can go visit your parents at a certain time and be right back. Or what about I'm going over there, and of course we think that, oh, he's so protective, he's so concerned, he wants to make sure that I'm safe. But you got to call when you get there, and then you have to call when you're on your way back home. What about those of us that go into churches, and we have a church where we have our pastors that are feeding us the word of God, and we're understanding and we're growing in faith, and now he says, you don't go to that church anymore. I don't want you over there. Oh, I heard something about them over there, and I don't want you dealing with them. Wounded worshiper. Wounded worshiper. Trying your best to fit in. Trying your best to just appease the person you're in the relationship with. Wanting to make sure that you're giving him everything that he wants, and you lose yourself. Losing who you are, losing your purpose, losing what you've been called to do, losing your point of destiny, losing your self-esteem and your self-worth because you've been wounded. Not knowing you've been wounded. Now you're being told what to wear, what you cannot wear, how to style your hair, all of that. Wounded relationship. You're a wounded worshiper. And you're walking around wondering how you ended up there. How did you really end up there? That's a good question. How did you end up there? We end up there because we take everything and we put all of our investments, all of our everything into someone else. We give it all to him because we want to make sure that he's secure. We want to make sure that he feels okay. We want to make sure that he's all right. He doesn't have anything to worry about. We don't want him even questioning anything as it relates to our love for him. So now we begin to cater, and we begin to pour out and give so much out of ourselves. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming when you have to continue to pour into someone over and over again, to keep filling them up and making them feel that they're okay, making them feel that it's all right, making them feel that their esteem is built up, that you have to keep validating, affirming someone that really doesn't trust you. And guess what? The trust is not with you. The trust is really with them, but they really don't trust you. And a lot of times when they don't trust you is because of the things that they are doing, the things that they've been dealt to. And that's why they have that trust issue with you, that insecurity with them. And then let me talk to the women for this about what is it that you've been taught. Sometimes we be taught so much. Sometimes so much comes at us at a very young age. We hear our parents say, men are no good. Don't trust them. They're all the same. You might as well stay with that one because the other one would do the same thing. All men would do the same thing. You hear that over and over. When you begin to hear it so much, you know what? You begin to believe that you've heard. It begins to be like a part of who you are. Then you begin to expect these things and settle for that because you figure like, I always was told this, so here's another one. And I might as well stick it out with this one because they all are just alike. And so you find yourself being in a relationship where you're broken and you're giving so much of yourself trying to make it work. You're giving so much of yourself trying to pour into somebody who needs pouring into, while you're depleting yourself of all of you. Wounded worshiper. You're wounded. You might as well pass out slain because you've been giving all of yourself, emptying out all of you, trying to fill someone else, trying to get them to understand that who you are, that you love them, you care for them. You know, they don't have to worry about this. Trying to make them feel so safe, so secure, and you're wounded. A lot of times we go through these issues dealing with all of that. And I'm telling you, ladies, it's so very, very crafty. It's so very, very settled. You don't even see it. You didn't even know. You didn't even see it coming. But you end up broken there. Dealing with people that have insecurities, weaknesses, low self-esteem, and you begin to pour in and keep filling. And you find yourself, guess what? Now guess what happens? Guess what happens? You're losing who you are. You're losing your identity. You're losing your purpose. Now you don't really know the real you. You don't really know the real you now because you've been doing this for so long till you became someone else. You settled in being that person that the other individual created you to be because you had to dummy yourself down to fit. You had to dummy yourself down. You have crawled into a shell and now you don't even go anywhere. You're not doing anything. You're not going by your relative's house. You're not going by your girlfriend's house. You're not doing anything. You're really not doing anything. You become isolated. That's overwhelming. You've become isolated, intoxicated on love, thinking that this is what it's supposed to be. This is not healthy. This is not the norm. This is not the norm. And we justify it and we call it submission. We call it submission. And I promise you, I am big on submission. I am big on submitting to man or woman of God, submitting to your man of God, submitting to your husband. I'm big on it. I believe that we submit to God first, and God is our headship, and whoever we're bind to, whoever we're connected to that has rule over us, we submit to them as well. But how many of us lose who we are in the midst of it? Lose who we are in the midst of it. You lose who you are in the midst of it. You so lost your children don't even identify you when you're in that relationship. You're so lost your children don't even recognize you. They begin to wonder why. Why are you acting that way? Why are you dealing that way? Why are you being that way? You so into it that they don't even recognize you. And that's why I'm talking about the serious and the matured woman, because a lot of times we are that person. And our children become us. When we see that our teenage daughters and our daughters who are maturing and they're be so engulfed in a relationship and they're heartbroken and they bow down and they can't move, they can't breathe, they can't go anywhere without letting that person know, and you looking at them side eye like, what is going on with that? Because we can always see it in somebody else, but we can't see it in ourselves. We can always see when somebody else is doing it and being dealt, but we can't see it when it's us, when we're the ones that are struggling, and we're the ones that are going through it, and we're the ones that are putting up with all the garbage and all of the foolishness. Can't really see it when it's you. Can't really see it then. But we can see it when someone else is doing it. Let me tell you how affected I was. Can I just talk about me for a minute? Because I've been in some broken places. You can tell. You hear it coming out. I've been there. But guess what? I'm not there now. And because I'm not there now, and I know that I've learned from my experiences, I want to be able to help other women learn as well. When you're in a relationship and you feel that all you're giving, everything that you're giving to that relationship, you feel that there's some trust there, you feel there's some security there, you feel that the love bond is there, because pretty much he's giving to you pretty much everything that you want. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to go anywhere. This is the other side of it. There's more than one side. I'm gonna walk you step by step. When you have, where you don't have to work, you don't have to go to school, you don't have to do any of that, you just stay home. It's conditioning. It's conditioning. Now don't get me wrong, not that you're not comfortable with staying home, not that you don't love staying home, not that you're not at your best at staying home. You can do it. You love doing it. But in some cases, it's conditioning. Some cases, not all. Some cases, it's conditioning. I've known people that way. I've known relationships that way. That where the woman didn't do anything, he did everything, gave everything, all what she had, he gave it. And then when mad day come, all of it came out. All of it came out. That I made you. You ain't have nothing without me. I bought this. You never. All of that came out. And now it also keeps you in a position to know where you are. How far you can go. Some women don't even learn how to drive. They don't learn how to drive. And I'm not talking about just the antiquated ladies of old. I'm talking about now. Don't learn how to drive, don't drive. He brings them wherever they need to go. It's conditioning. It's a form of conditioning. Okay? Wounded worshiper. When you are in love, you are trying your best to do your best, to be your best, understanding it all, connecting to everything, making sure that the house is in order, the children are in order, the hubby is in order, everything is together. And then you find yourself with years gone by. Years gone by. And there's a lot that you let go of. A lot that you let go of. I had a friend of mine that went through this too. I had a friend of mine that went through this. Gave up family, church, friends, all of it. All of it. And justified it as being content and submissive. Gave it all up. I went through it. I said, I'm going to talk about me. Let's deal with me. Gave up ministry, work, positioning, everything to satisfy, to appease, to affirm, to validate, to make feel secure. Years went by, you guys. Years. Not months. Years. Still pouring, still giving. Still affirming. Still, and trust me, one thing that I know how to do, and I think every woman should want to, is to affirm your king. If he's your man, make him feel like he's the man. Make him feel like he's the king. But a strong man knows who he is. A strong man knows exactly who he is. But when you find yourself having to give all of you and pour all of you into something or someone, and you're losing who you are, you're losing your self-worth. You can't even identify you anymore because you have become somebody else. You have fit the mold to become somebody else. You're no longer identifiable. Your friends can't even identify who you are. All of who I am today is all of who I've always been. I've been this person. But because when you're confined and you're boxed in because of insecurities of everybody else that are around you, and I'm talking about, you can be wounded with a spouse. You could be wounded with a girlfriend. You could be wounded with a parent. And you box yourself in. And the things that you're created to do, the creativity that you have and the exploits that you can do, you really don't do because somebody else might get offended, or somebody else might think you're trying to take their spot, or somebody else might think you're trying to, be the center of attention. So you have to kind of like say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna just do this. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna step out of my box. I'm not gonna step out. I'm gonna just stay right here, and I'm gonna just do this because I don't want to offend. I don't want to offend. How many times have we been in that place? The manipulation of the mind, the control, wounded. You're so wounded till you really thought you thought of that. You didn't know that you were talked into that, but you thought that on your own. A wounded worshiper. And we find ourselves, ladies, dealing with all of that. Now, how do we get out of this stuff? Mary J, you told me I'm a wounded worshiper. You told me that when I'm being controlled and manipulated, I'm a wounded worshiper. You told me that when I was told that you don't have to drive, you don't have to get a job, you don't have to go back to school. I'm a wounded worshiper. I don't want you over there at that church anymore. Wounded worshiper. Because all of the stuff that you deal with on the inside and nobody sees it, nobody knows it, you begin to worship your God with all of this brokenness. You begin to extend your hands up to God with all of the brokenness. And what happens is that you were created to worship God. And now you're in his presence. And because of all of your frailties and all of the stuff that you've been through and everything that you're going through, now when you lift up holy hands before a holy God, you're made ashamed. You're made ashamed. Because you feel like you were confined for so long, and now that you're trying to break through, you don't even know what to do with all of the gifting that God has given to you. Because you're either told it's not the time, it's not the season, or that's not you, or no, don't wear this, or don't do. So you find yourself crying out within yourself, trying to escape who you really are. And everybody around you have created you to be. Because they told you how to act. They told you how to feel. They told you what to say. They told you what not to say. Oh, don't do that. Oh, don't say that. And you carry the spirit of offense. Matter of fact, you seen your mama do it. You seen your mama go through it. You watch how she dealt with your dad. You watched her ways and you thought that was normal because that's all you knew. So what you saw is what you did. But it's not until you know, when you begin to think within yourself and think of who you are, and just know that God has created you to be fearfully and wonderfully made, that nobody but Him deserves that much glory. Nobody but Him deserves all of that. You give that to God. But you have poured it out so much till you're torn, you're scorned, you're wounded, you're crippled. And now you don't even know how to give it away. The last person wounded you so badly, you don't even know how to treat somebody that has come into your life right. Because they broke you up so much. And you know what? Then you begin to safeguard your heart and say, you know what? No, I'm not doing this again. I'm not going through that again. I gave him my everything. I put so much into him. I did everything. I was a good wife. I was a good mother. I was a good friend. I was a good daughter. I did it all. And now, listen. So now all of who you were created to be, you dummy yourself down, you guard yourself in, you box yourself in, you say not again. Not again. But the devil is a liar. The person that God is preparing you for, because everybody can't handle you. Everybody don't know how to deal with you. So God is going to prepare you. He's going to prepare you for friendships that will be whole, for friendships that will bring about healing, for friendships that will bring about affirmation, that you won't have to feel like, okay, I can't be me, because being me is like being too much. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Being me, they're not ready to handle all of me. They like the more conservative you. They like the more together you. But if you decide that you're going to really say what you really feel, then you no longer can be you. Because that part of you is unacceptable. That part of you is not welcome. That part of you is a little bit too much out of the box. You decided to take charge of your life. You decided to let things go. You decided not to hold on to grudges anymore. You decided to break those barriers and those generational curses. You decided that you're going to love again, and you're going to live again, and you're going to feel again. You decided that you no longer want to settle, that you no longer want to just tolerate foolishness. You decided that all the things that you once heard, that you were once told, you want to think for yourself now. You want to think about it. You want to think for a moment and just process it all. Because you were told that you can't have that, and you can't do that. And you shouldn't go there. And you shouldn't wear that. You were told that. You were told that every man is going to cheat. And every man is no good. And you might as well keep the man you got. Because if you get another one, he's going to do the same thing to you. So now you're broken and you're guarded. And you're untrusting. Because you believe the lies. You believe what your mama told you, because that's what she went through, and she stayed, and she dealt, So you feel like, hey, I gotta guard mine. And I gotta find myself by myself because everybody is out to get me. And everybody is no good. And nobody is worth trusting. And nobody is worth befriending. Because that's what you were told. So now, not only that every man has to pay for it, every woman has to pay for it. Your daughters have to pay for it. You find yourself repeating that cycle over and over again. But not anymore. Not anymore. You don't have to. You can rise up out of that thing. You can lift yourself up out of that thing. And you no longer have to stay stuck. How do you come out? How do you come out? Be true to yourself. Come to yourself. Look yourself in the mirror. Look yourself in the eye. Be true to yourself. All of what God has given you, all of what He's put into you, all of what He's told you, everything that He's spoken over your life, everything that He promised you, the visions, the dreams, all of that He's given to you, be true to yourself. No longer stay stuck. No longer stay bound. Worrying about if you're going to offend this person, if you step out and do this, or is that person going to be offended because you did that? You are a wounded worshiper. And I don't know about you, but I just decided to be free. I just decided, Mary J just decided to be free, to worship the God that she served and the God that has given her everything, the ability, the anointing, the creativity, the talent, the gift. Do you, and stop bleeding. Stop bleeding. Stop walking around with your head down. Stop walking around murmuring and complaining. Stop walking around not trusting anybody. Not wanting to give anybody. Not wanting to love anybody because you've been wounded. Because you've been broken. Do you? Trust the Holy One. Trust the Anointed One. Trust the one that has told you what to do. Trust that. And do you? I am baffled. I'm hurt by some of those stories that I hear about women that have been wounded, that they have put up these guards, these walls, these barriers, because of insecurities of others, because of what they've been told, what they've been dealt. You don't know the hand that I was dealt. I was married, a wife and a mother at age 17. All of what I'm saying, been there, done that. Physically abused, emotionally abused, mentally abused. Been there, done that. So I'm not telling you something that I do not know. But what I am telling you is that you don't have to stay there. You don't have to stay in a place, in a space where you know it is not suitable for you. Now, listen everybody loud and clear before you like, Mary J told me to go get a divorce and leave, and I'm not telling you to do that. Because guess what? Nobody told me to. Nobody told me to. Oh, I'm telling you this. If you're in a place where you're being physically beaten, make way of safety. I have to say that. Make a way of safety. God will make a way of escape. You go to a safe place. And I'm going to be dealing with some women on tomorrow. I'm going to be dealing with some women on tomorrow night. I have to go and speak. I think it's women justice for domestic violence, women against domestic violence. I'm not sure the exact name of the group, but I have to go and speak it on tomorrow. God will make a way of escape. I'm talking to the spiritual. I'm talking to the serious and matured woman on tonight. Listen to me. He will make a way of escape for you. Yes, he will. And when he makes that way of escape, he would safeguard you. He would protect you. He would keep you. You have to understand that where you are, you won't always be. There's so much more in store. There's so many great things ahead. And a lot of times when we get stuck, we settle in because we've been fed the lies and we believe the lies that we were fed. But like I said before, it's not until you come to yourself and you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you already know. You've already know. Because there's something on the inside that tells you there's better, there's more, there's greater. That this presently isn't it. So you begin to reach. And as you're reaching, you begin to reach up. And when you reach up and you begin to look up and you see the light. And there's light at the end of the tunnel. Abuse is not always physical. Abuse can also be emotional. Abuse can be manipulation. Abuse can be control. Abuse can be dictation. Abuse can be you walking on eggshells around someone because you don't want to offend them. Not realizing that that too is abuse. So I wanted to come on and talk to the wounded worshiper. Hello out there. Wounded worshiper. You are the person that is so confined. You're so boxed in. You're guarded. You're so guarded that you won't even allow people to come into your space. And if they do come in your space, it has to be approved. Has to be approved. Because otherwise, that person becomes a threat. Becomes a threat. A threat to your own ego. A threat to your own insecurities. A threat to your own esteem. A threat to your own emotions. Brokenness Been there. Wounded. Been there. And you girls have never, even those of you that know me, have never heard me talk about it. Right? And I was married at 17 years old. My first marriage. Broken. Abused. And it's hard for people to hear it because so much time has passed, so many years has gone by, till it offends people to hear it now because they're hurt and they're sorry and they're no longer that person. I understand. And all is forgiven. But when you don't know, you don't know. You really don't. And then my thing is that, this is my thing. Don't get mad with me when I'm trying to help others. You rather me not help. You rather me not say anything. Because then, if I say something, then for some reason, somehow, that exposes you as well. So, we have these relationships, ladies. They become toxic. And our children see us in it. And they repeat what they see. And I'm telling you, it can be something as simple as not saying anything at all. It can be something as simple as not having a voice. Not being able to speak. And you end up doing what you saw done. Regardless. And the thing about it, let me say this, because I know we deal with all different sorts of issues and relationship struggles. We hear stories about how women felt like they wanted to get out but they couldn't. We hear stories how women felt like, oh, he didn't mean to do it. We hear stories how women felt like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that, and that caused this or that. I didn't feel any of that, to be honest. I didn't feel any of that. I felt like I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I felt like things that were happening I didn't understand, and it was none of what I caused. I felt like I needed to stay to work it out for the sake of marriage, for the sake of my vows, for the sake of religion. I felt like that if I left, God would not be pleased with me. So I did all for the sake of staying, for the sake of making sure that I was in the will of God. So I stayed in a situation that was not conducive for me, that I should not have been in. And it wasn't until I heard the word of the Lord that years ago, I heard the word of the Lord that said, your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost. And when I heard it, there was something that quickened in me that said, okay, you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be dealt with the hand that you've been dealt. These cards that you've been playing, it's time to put these cards down. It's time to say game over. It's time to come to yourself. It's time for you to take control of your own life and your own situation and the things that you've experienced. It's time for you to rise up. And not only rise up, but wise up. I want to talk about this a little more on next week, because I struggle with this tonight. I did. I struggled with this tonight because I wanted to talk about the suitable companionship. And as God gave me the topics, I said, okay, brokenness, unpacked baggage, suitable companionship. Because I'm saying that's the order. You got to know what's suitable and who's suitable before you go into the part about being wounded. But this is what I felt on tonight. That so many of us are wounded, and we think that the relationship is already suitable because we're in it. And we get wounded emotionally, wounded physically, wounded verbally. And we find ourselves there and not knowing how to deal with it because we're there, we're in it. So this is how you deal with it. Think to yourself who you are, whose you are. Think about it. Think about what's happening to you. Think about what's happening to your spirit, what's happening to your self-esteem, what's happening to your body, what's happening to your mind, what's going on with you emotionally. Why is that happening? What caused that to happen? Are you just kind of rewinding the tape that's being played in your head based on what someone said? Based on the names they called you and the lies they told you? Denounce all of that. Tear all of that stuff down. Break all of that. Begin to pray and war in the spirit. If you don't know what warring in the spirit is reading the word, understanding the word of God, and speaking them over your life over and over and over again. When you hear a negative thought in your head and it tells you one thing, you speak the opposite. You tear that thing down. You tear it down. And you take charge. You take charge of your life. You take charge of your thoughts. You make quality decisions based on where you are and what is best for you in that situation. You have the right to take control of it. No one else has the power to take that from you. Wounded worshiper. Can't go to church. Can't go over there. Can't do this. Oh, that might offend. Oh, I better call them and tell them where I am. Oh, I'm headed back home. Let me call and check in. I'm not saying don't have camaraderie. I'm not saying don't be on one accord. I'm not saying don't be submissive. I'm saying understand the difference. Just understand the difference. Just understand the difference. And ladies, let me say this. Don't you become a controller where you feel that you've been so broken and so hurt that now you begin to control him, because now he has to pay for the mistake that he's made because he hurt you, or he cheated on you, he lied to you, he betrayed you. Of course, you build that trust, you regain that trust, you trust in parts, you make limitations and boundaries set in place, and then you begin to build together. But don't have your partner, your man, your husband under arrest for something that he did years ago, and you're still holding on to it. Now you're the one that is doing the abusing now, where he said he was sorry, you forgave him, you came to him, y'all together, you're back on one accord, but he's gonna pay. How long? How long? He's going to continue to pay for what he did the rest of your days. Mind games. Mind games. And every minute you're ready to leave. Every minute you're talking about you're leaving. Every minute you're talking about what he did that hurted you. And now you're about to leave. You want a divorce. You want this. You want that. Mind games. Either you're going to forgive. You're going to make amends. You're going to build trust together. Or you might as well not be there. You might as well not stick it out. Because who wants to be in bondage the rest of their days? Who wants to stay tied to someone that's going to keep bringing up their past, keep telling them what they did wrong over and over again, and not trusting? They can't go by their friend. They can't go shoot pool. They can't hang out with the fellas. They can't go here because you're so untrusting. Now, I understand it takes time to make it mend. I understand it takes time to get it back right. I understand it takes time to build and build together. And there should be some restrictions and limitations. There should be some boundaries. Yes, he should be checking in and letting you know. But don't hold a brother down forever like that. Don't hold him down like that forever. Where now you're just not even trusting him. You're not trusting anybody. Wounded worshiper. You're so wounded, you're so broken. Until it has become a part of who you are. You forgot who you really are. It's who you are. It's your life now. You made that person be who you are. It's your life now because you've been so accustomed to it. You think it's normal. You think that's the way you're supposed to be because that's the way you've always been. It's not. And you shouldn't be. It's time to let go. It's time to rise up. It's time to break free. Yes. That's right. You don't have to stay there. You really don't. You don't have to hold on to the manipulation and the control. You don't. You don't. You can get out. You can start over. You can bounce back. And all of that I'm saying it in the terms of mending, building, reestablishing, trusting. It just depends on where you are. It just depends on you. Depends on you. It depends on where you are. It depends on you. All right, ladies. Up close and personal in your face. You can be wounded physically. You can be wounded emotionally. You can be wounded mentally. You can even be wounded socially and spiritually. Isolation. To isolate you from everybody, everyone, your friends, your family. Can't do anything, can't go anywhere. As long as you let me know who these people are, where you're going. Like your children. Like, that's what we do with our kids when we don't know their friends. That's what we do with them. Yeah. But we can come back to ourselves. We can come back to ourselves. Yes, we can. All right, ladies. Are you hearing me tonight? Are you hearing me tonight? Christy? Yes. Think about who you are. Think about all of what God has given to you. Think about what he said, what he's spoken over you. What did he tell you? Not your friend, not your mom, not anybody else, you. Think about it. And make that process there. Turn that thing around. Turn it around. Work it out. Go into your cry room. Go into your war room. War in the spirit. You have to break those barriers. You have to break those chains. You have to destroy those yokes and remove those burdens. I came to myself not ever thinking that I needed to be there. Not ever thinking that I needed to settle in. Not ever thinking that I deserved it. Never thought that foolishness. Never ever thought that. I thought because I was there, I had to stay there because I had made a vow. And I didn't want to break my vow. And I thought that God would be so displeased with me if I left. So I stayed way longer than I should have. But by the grace of God, he kept me. He kept my mind. And it's deeper, much deeper, that I probably,